Republicans and Democrats have promised us the world. Medicare for all, no child left behind, equity, safer streets, and police reform, an end to the housing crisis, a more peaceful world, and a sound economy. Government is the barrier to all of these things.
If you're sick of the lies, fancy slogans, and broken promises, then join us in the Libertarian Party of California and help bring a real free market to the Golden State and help set every individual free. Visit ca.lp.org. That's ca.lp.org. Hello, and welcome back to Libertarian Los Angeles on the Liberty Blues Network. I'm Shawn Osborne. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like it, and leave a comment wherever you listen if you enjoy the content today. Today, Susan Shelley is joining us from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association to talk about some of the taxes coming around here in Los Angeles and California in general. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me.
So my pleasure. So I haven't had a lot of time to read into exactly what's going on with this tax for the street lights and property tax. Let's dive right into it and tell the people what they're up to.
Okay, well, the city of Los Angeles has always had a streetlight assessment on property tax bills, and they're about to raise it. And the reason they're raising it is because of copper wire theft. 40% of the streetlights that are out in Los Angeles are out because of copper wire theft, and there's a 1-year wait to get a street light repaired. The other 60% of the lights that are out of service are either vandalism or some other kind of problem. But the streetlight assessment, according to the city officials, is not sufficient to keep up with the copper theft maintenance. And as a result, they've just decided, instead of cracking down on the theft, they've decided to crack down on the taxpayers. So the Los Angeles Police Department in 2024 set up a heavy metal task force to try to stop the theft, and they were doing pretty well with it, but then they disbanded the task force, and now the thieves run free in Los Angeles. So there's a property tax assessment again, and the way this works is the property owners have an opportunity to vote on it. The city have to operate under a special process under Proposition 218, which was a 1996 Right to Vote on Taxes Act from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And it essentially gives taxpayers a little bit of control so that city councils can't just randomly raise fees for things that are really taxes. It has to be tied to the cost of service. It has to provide a special benefit to the property. And then it has the ballot has to be weighted according to the benefit, the size of the parcel. So it's a very complicated process that requires an engineering report before they can send out these ballots. Well, they've sent the ballots out, and property owners can vote yes or no. They have to mail them back to the city. The ballot went out with a business reply postage paid envelope. You just pop the ballot in that and send it back. It must be received back by the city by June 2nd, which coincidentally is the date of the primary election, but it's nothing to do with the primary election. Totally separate. Do not send the ballot back. If you get one of these, do not send it back with your election ballot. That'll go to the wrong place. Send it back to the city. And if you've lost your ballot, contact the Bureau of Street Lighting at the City of Los Angeles and get a replacement ballot, because a lot of people probably threw it out, didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I was surprised to get it. I had no idea I was getting it. That's the first I heard about it, and I was like, oh my God. So is it for the whole county?
No, it's just the City of Los Angeles.
Oh, just the City of Los Angeles.
Right.
Okay. And when you talk about the copper theft, I actually technically work for the city and the parks, and I know they've had a terrible problem with people stealing copper out of the bathrooms and stuff. Like one of the parks, I know that one of the bathrooms has been raided at least 2 or 3 times. One of the same park had one week, all the copper was taken out, all the pipes were taken out. So the entire park had no water for a week. And part of what they're saying in this is they're going to protect these new lights, and they're going to get solar power. So it'll be harder for thieves to steal. solar power stuff has silver in it. So I mean, I think people will be stealing that too
I think so.
with the price of silver, and so I don't know. I just think they're blowing, I don't think they're going to be able to help with more money. Is not gonna from the taxpayers isn't going to help this in the slightest bit because they can't protect what they got going on now. It seems like.
That's very true. And one of the city council members raised these questions in a city council meeting before these ballots went out and asked the director of the Bureau of Street Lighting, well, what are you going to do differently?
Mhm.
And, they're not going to do anything differently. It's not their problem that people are stealing copper wire and vandalizing the street lights. But their plan is to replace some of the lights, as you said, with solar lights, which I think are more expensive and have a shorter lifespan.
Mm.
And in addition to the silver, I think it's a problem, but they did do a pilot project, and I guess they didn't have any major problems with it yet. So that's part of their plan, but that's a small part. And the rest of it, I think they're going to talk about trying to seal up the openings with concrete or something else. Well, that's just going to increase the cost of legitimate maintenance on the
Right.
streetlights. So they're
Yeah.
drill out the concrete so they can get at them.
Yeah.
And we've seen plenty of videos of thieves with heavy equipment lifting plates and drilling concrete and smashing whatever. They don't care. They don't have to get it working again when they're finished with it. So that's why the streetlights are out in Los Angeles. And the problem from the libertarian perspective is how can they just let crime go wild like this and just keep charging people
Hmm.
for this Roadrunner Coyote cartoon of trying to keep up with the thieves? This is
Yeah.
craziness. They have no plan to address what's causing the financial drain. And until they seal up the drain on the money, there's no point in just collecting more of it.
No. And I mean, somebody like me, I live over here in Lincoln Heights. My street maybe only has two lights, and they're not really even close to my house. So I mean, why do I want to pay for lights all over the place? I mean, the what is it, the Fourth Street Bridge? I think it was open for about a month before they stole all the copper out of it.
It's completely dark.
Yeah,
And
they spent $1 billion on that bridge, and there it sets dark years
mhm.
later. They haven't done anything about it.
Yes, well, part of the problem in the city of Los Angeles is the budget is underwater. They have a structural deficit because the mayor has pushed higher and higher wages for city workers.
Hmm.
So they've signed really lucrative contracts for everybody who's a bureaucrat with the city.
Hmm.
Also, with first responders, that's important because you don't want people quitting the force and going to work somewhere else. So
Hmm.
that's a big part of it. But just the city bureaucracy, the people who manage personnel and push paper and all of that kind of thing, they make a lot of money. And Mayor Karen Bass wanted them to make more money. And that's just great if you can afford it, but the city could not afford it. And they
Hmm.
did it anyway. And now they're looking for more revenue wherever they can find it. Plus, we have the Olympics coming.
Yeah.
This is a big problem because they do not have a good contract with the Olympics Committee. It's not like 1984 when they had a really rock solid contract to protect the taxpayers. This one was signed by Mayor Eric Garcetti on his way out the door, and it has no protections. So essentially, they've got a vague promise that it'll be of zero cost to the city.
Oh.
Worth the paper it's written on, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, boy.
not any kind of a guarantee at all. And they left all of these different contract points to be negotiated later. That's what was in the agreement. Well, last October was the deadline for negotiating the what they call the Enhanced City Resources Master Agreement. And that's supposed to say all of the ancillary costs that the city has to take on for extra police, extra sanitation, extra lighting, extra whatever that they need around the area of the Olympic venues, not right within the ribbon around them, but beyond that. And especially if there are protests or there are problems, who pays for that? And they were supposed to negotiate that the Olympic Committee would reimburse the city. But it's now April and they have not completed this agreement. And
Mm.
it doesn't look like they're going to get reimbursed for all of these costs. So it's a big concern. It's a big hole in the budget ahead of us.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, they're remodeling the convention center and they're putting all this money on the credit card, all these charges that they're issuing bonds and taking out loans, and they don't have the money to do all of this. And that is a big budget problem. And then there's one more giant budget problem. There's potential liability for the city from the Palisades fire.
Mm.
because the LADWP, which is a city-owned utility, the Department of Water and Power, they had some decision making that doesn't look very good in the courtroom as discovery is proceeding in a number of lawsuits. So the city could be on the hook for huge payouts there. Overall, don't buy bonds from the city of Los Angeles because they might be junk.
Yeah, man, that's a lot going on. The other thing is, the mayor has been talking about making it a zero car um, event,
Yes,
I think. So she wants, the city's gonna be paying for that transportation too. Then, if
exactly.
they don't want people parking there, well, people are gonna be they want people to be taking the trains. And if they're building some things like with the purple line down to LACMA and stuff like that, if they're rushing it, how safe is the stuff going to be too?
Well, it's not safe even if the trains are safe because the people on the trains are a threat.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's true.
it's not great, and
Yeah.
it will be a special security event for the federal government. So they'll come in with security and they'll do what they have to do to keep the venues safe, I would imagine. But it's the outlying areas around the venues. Nobody really knows who's going to pay for all of that. And I think we know it's going to be the taxpayers. So we have to watch out for all kinds of different proposals for tax increases that the city's going to want to put through. This is why Prop 218 passed in 1996. It was to prevent cities from shifting general tax burdens into fees on property. Saying it's a fee on property, but it's really going into the general fund for everything. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be tied to, as I said, the cost of service and the benefit to the parcel, and it can't be just a tax by another name.
How has your message been taken by homeowners or and stuff like that in Los Angeles? Have they been? Do you run into very many people that are pro for the want the raise because they think it's good?
No, I haven't heard from anybody who believes that they'll use the money well. So there's a deep skepticism about city services in general. Everybody's pretty sick of the potholes and the failure to maintain the sidewalks and just the general decline of the city of Los Angeles. People are pretty upset. And then there are various proposals to charge businesses, like with a business improvement district or a tourism improvement district. There's another proposal to charge Hollywood businesses that's moving forward. And they're supposed to be funding street security and sanitation with these funds. Well, shouldn't the city be funding that with the tax dollars they already pay? Because they're already hit with a gross receipts tax for being in the city of Los Angeles. Interestingly, there's a movement to get rid of that. Some of the business groups have qualified a measure for the November ballot that would repeal the city's gross receipts tax. And I think they want to negotiate some other things off the ballot. So it may not end up on the ballot, but we'll see. They could go forward with that and mount a campaign and explain to voters that the city's driving businesses away, and that's why there's no money to do all the things that people want to do because the sales tax revenue goes down, the business tax revenue goes down, the income tax to the state goes down. People aren't working in Los Angeles. There's a lot that people don't understand about taxation. They think they can just take everything from people and no one will move. Well, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it is wild. Sometimes the way that it works out, they tax more thinking they're going to get more money, but actually, their pool dries up. You
Exactly.
And that's kind of one of these things with the billionaire tax is that the income tax started out just for the rich people too, and now we all
Mhm.
pay it. And I think the Democrats wrote in a couple of things like where they can do this again, even though they say it's a one-time thing. And I think they left something in the bill that has something to do with like they can add to it and add more people to it. Like who has to pay that? Did I read that correctly?
I think you did. As I understand it, and I might be wrong about this, but the measure amends the Constitution of California. It's not just a statute, it's a constitutional amendment in part. And it creates a situation where the legislature, by a two-thirds vote, can augment this measure. Supposedly, it has to be in the spirit of the measure, but as we know, the spirit of the measure is pure piracy. So
Mm-hmm.
so what isn't in the spirit of the measure? They
Yeah, right.
they could certainly adjust those income thresholds down or those wealth thresholds down. A wealth tax is very dangerous.
Hmm.
It's extremely dangerous because now they're saying, you have it, we want it, we're taking it. No
Hmm.
justification, no nexus to any service or benefit, just you have it, you already paid taxes on it, we don't care, we're taking it. Kind of like an estate tax while you're living annually. And
Yeah.
and that's really bad because in principle, they could go after everybody's savings, everybody's retirement account, the equity in your home. You buy a home for, let's say, $500,000, and 3 years later it's worth $800,000. Ha ha, we can tax you on $300,000. Can they? I don't think they should. Proposition 13 made sure they couldn't do that with property taxes. It put a cap on how much your assessed value could go up, no matter what the market value turned out to be. And that protects you from being taxed out of your home by inflation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they do this and the Franchise Tax Board sets up the mechanism where everybody has to fill out a form and tell the government what they have so the government can decide who has to pay the tax, boy, that's trouble. I
That
mean,
really is.
yeah, that's very intrusive. And they would just take an AI agent and go through all of that and say, aha, look where the money is here. We can grab this, 1% of this and 3% of that. And it's always with this justification that the government does everything for you and you now have to give back. Well, you know what? It works for us, not the other way around. We created the government. The people created the government. The government didn't create the people. We
Yeah.
have rights. They can't infringe them. People have to get a grip on this stuff and get the socialist mindset out of their heads.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of these social, some of them are just bad, but I mean, some socialists, I think they have, I mean, they really care. They just misplace their trust in government, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, they're very misinformed.
Yeah. So, so I guess, so what's the name of the thing people should be looking for in the mail if they haven't already got it?
Well, it's coming from the street light thing is coming from the Bureau of Street Lighting in the city of Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
And it's pretty straightforward. It has a great big box that says yes and a great big box that says no. It's not deceptive, I don't think. It tells you in the upper right-hand corner how much you'll be paying. Um, they sent out a color flyer a week before that made it look very necessary and wonderful. And then they sent the part with
That
the
they did.
actual, they sent the part with the number that you're going to be paying. They sent that later. Uh, but they have to do that. It's not their option. They have to send out a ballot.
Mhm.
They have to do that also with trash fees and sewer fees. Those are structured a little bit differently than this is. This is an assessment, and the fees, they send out ballots to everybody who's going to pay them. And then, unless you get half or more of those ballots that went out returned with a no vote, it goes through. So if people throw out the ballot, it counts as a yes, but not on
Oh,
this one.
yeah. Really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, not on this one. On like they just did this recently with the trash fees and the sewer fees in Los Angeles. You probably saw that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you didn't because those they conceal, they make it easy to throw away.
I think
Uh,
I did see that recently. I
yeah,
see so much stuff where they want money. My brain swims with it.
it's really awful. And
Yeah.
the services get worse and worse. And they want to borrow more money. They want bonds and they want more bonds and they want taxes and they want more taxes. And they don't make any of these public services usable for people. It's the park. You can't use the parks. You can't use transit.
Mhm.
Everything is just overrun with people who are really dangerous. A lot of homeless encampments everywhere. They don't have to tolerate that. The Supreme Court said they can enforce an anti-camping ordinance. They just don't want to.
Mhm.
And so all of this public space that we're paying for is unusable, and that's really
Yeah.
unfair.
Do you know? I think I saw that there's a hearing that they're going to have someplace in downtown over the light thing, but I don't know when it is. Do
That
you
might
think about that?
yeah, that might be the hearing where they count the ballots. That might be the end of the process on June 2nd.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's the only one I'm aware of.
All right, because I thought I'd read something in the stuff that came that they were going to have some hearing. I thought they said it was going to be in May, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
Well, I will look. I don't know that there's a hearing in May. The hearing where they count the votes is in June. So anybody who objects can go object in person, or you can just mail in your ballot.
Yeah, because
But
I
it
definitely would
has
have
to be
objected.
there by June 2nd. There's no 7-day grace period on this kind of vote.
Yeah. So, do you know? Do you know of any other shenanigans going on here that the listeners would like to hear?
Well, there's some good news.
Yeah. Oh, I like good news.
There are two ballot measures that have qualified for the November ballot. One is from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, which makes it harder to raise your taxes. So I highly recommend that. We don't have proposition numbers yet. That'll be at the end of June, I think. But we call it the Local Taxpayer Protection Act to save Prop 13. And what it does is make it harder to raise your taxes after the courts have made it easier to raise your taxes. And that's not really the job of the courts to reinterpret the Constitution that way. So we're closing those loopholes and we're making
Which
it
tax in
harder.
particular?
Well, a bunch of them. The Constitution says, this is from Prop 13 in 1978, the Constitution says local governments cannot enact transfer taxes on real estate. So they can enact special taxes. Everybody has to vote on them. Special taxes, where the money is directed to a particular purpose, need a two-thirds vote. But under no circumstances can they enact a real estate transfer tax or another tax on the value of the real estate called an ad valorem tax.
Mhm.
Those two kinds they can't do at all. And the reason for that is because Prop 13 was a reduction in taxes. It was not a deferral of taxes. So anything where the government would try to take it back from you when you sell, that was forbidden. And anything where they would try to duplicate the tax revenue that was being cut with their own value tax, that was forbidden. So the courts carved a loophole in that in the 1990s, and they said, well, under certain circumstances, certain cities can do transfer taxes. So where did that come from? Right out of the air. And
Mhm.
the other thing that's been a loophole is in 2017, the Supreme Court said, well, you know that two-thirds requirement, it may not apply to all taxes. It may apply only to taxes that the government puts on the ballot. If the citizens put the tax increase on the ballot, the Constitution doesn't apply. Well, there again,
Crazy.
where did that come from? Right out
Yeah.
of the air. So the result of that has been special interest groups can write their own tax increase, direct all the money to themselves, pay to collect the signatures to put it on the local ballot, and not have to meet the two-thirds vote requirement.
Man, that sounds as crazy as it gets.
It's so crooked. So
Oh
that's
man.
really, this is how we got Measure
Oh,
ULA, which is the mansion tax that people are complaining about now as having stifled the real estate market and housing construction. That's how we got that. It was a special interest tax written by the people who get the money. And the homeless sales tax increase in
uh-huh.
November 2024, that was a citizen initiative tax increase. Well, who are the citizens there who were paying to collect signatures to raise their own taxes? Guess what? The groups that get the money for
Mhm.
homeless services, the groups that do the contracts for those, paid for that sales tax campaign and passed it without a two-thirds vote. So this is going on all up and down the state. It's completely out of control. How do you say the Constitution doesn't apply to a local tax put on the ballot by citizens? And that's what the courts have said. So we're closing that loophole.
Oh
That's
man.
good news. That'll be on the ballot in November.
All
And
right.
the other one that's good news is the voter ID measure, because California has changed all of its election laws over the last 10 or so years, 15 years. It started under Jerry Brown that I was watching, where there's automatic voter registration at the DMV, and everybody's getting a ballot by mail, whether as long as they're registered, whether they're active voters. I guess technically they have to be active voters, and then everybody gets a ballot in the mail without requesting one. So there's ballots all over the place, and ballots are like money. You can't just leave them lying around
Mhm.
on the top of the mailbox in an apartment building, but that's what's happening. So the other thing is ballot harvesting, which Jerry Brown signed, universal mail balloting, Gavin Newsom signed, lots of changes to how they do the counting of ballots for 7 days after election day. All of these things, they've removed all of the security on our elections. They've really made ballot box stuffing viable without
Mhm.
any chance at all of getting caught. Voter impersonation, viable without any chance of getting caught. There's billions of dollars at stake in an election. Do we really think no one would cheat? So voter ID makes it much harder to cheat because if you have a ballot out there floating around and you require someone to put a 4-digit ID number on to send it back along with their signature, it's much easier for the people at the county to verify one ballot per voter.
Hmm.
It's just easier. So if
Yeah.
people have duplicate ballots out there, you can have a legitimate mistake in your registration where you one with an initial in the middle, one without, and you get two ballots. That can happen.
Hmm.
You're only supposed to vote once, but what if people do it intentionally and vote twice? What if somebody's registering people with a mailing address that's different than the residential address that they show, and they're voting mass ballots? There's no way to catch that unless you have some kind of voter ID. So I think it would really be a tremendous help in election security. We can have more access, we can have mail voting, we can have all of it, even ballot harvesting, as long as we know in some way we can verify one voter, one ballot, and count only the ones that are legitimately from the voter.
Yeah, it seems like there ought to be some sort of QR code or something that you can swipe and verify it on your phone that your vote was counted. It seems like there's got to be some way to do those kind of things, and that way that your vote was taken compared to somebody else having identity theft and taking your name and voted, or
Right.
all the
That can
different
happen.
crazy things.
A lot of people have just anecdotal evidence. They go to the polls and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, you already voted." No, I didn't. Oh, yes, you did. You already voted. You'll have to vote provisionally. Okay, well, the county always says, well, we verify the provisional ballots. So one time I verified with the county how they verify the provisional ballots, and this is how they do it. Is the voter registered? Did the voter already vote? And guess what? The voter already voted, but it wasn't the voter. It was somebody impersonating them. And so whose ballot gets thrown out? The real voter. The provisional ballot gets thrown out, and the fraudulent ballot counts. And there's no way to do anything about that because when somebody goes to the polls and they vote, it goes into the tray. That's it. It counts. You can't get it out again. Even if the person turns around and says, "Aha, I told you I was John Wayne, the movie star, but I'm not."
Yeah.
You can't get that ballot out of the box
Mhm.
again.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, I just because I know people on the I guess more socialists, they're like, oh, this is just to try to hold people down and stuff like that, or trying to I don't know, use some emotional argument for this, when the logical idea is we need things to be secure. I mean, I can't think of anything that needs to be more secure than an election.
I agree with you. And I think there are 34 states, or 36 states that already have voter ID. I have never heard a story in all my research looking for it. I've never heard a story of widespread problems with it where people can't vote because they're married and their name is different, or they can't vote because the color of their skin, they can't get an ID. What kind of nonsense is
Yeah,
this? It's just manipulative and wrong. Everybody needs clean elections. We
yeah,
should all be able to agree on that. Elections are the consent of the governed. That's really important because if you don't have the consent of the governed, it's tyranny. It's just force. And I think in some cases in California, we've had elections that are just force.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. One night we got the gerrymandering just to make things even worse.
Yeah,
Everybody,
gerrymandering.
everybody's gone mad on that.
Mad is the word that they are, that's for sure. Well, the courts are getting involved, and some of those maps are going to stand, and some of them are not.
Mhm.
I, I always feel that people can change their mind, so the gerrymandering may not even work quite the way that they expect it to. It depends on who's on the ballot, and it depends on the conditions in the country and everybody's economics. And there certainly were cases in the two elections of Trump where people who were expected to vote Democrat in South Texas, for instance,
Mhm.
they didn't vote Democrat, and people in Florida who were expected to vote Democrat didn't vote Democrat.
Mhm.
Um, who knows why? But for whatever reason, gerrymandering just draws lines around people's voter registration and voter history. That
Mhm.
doesn't predict the future necessarily.
Yeah, I heard somebody even say something about how it might even thin it out because they use some of the excess from one area for to bolster another area. So
Right.
might, in a closer election season, that might hurt them in the long run too. So it could be a double-edged sword. It might work for them right now, but the same thing might not be the case in the future. Like you said, depending on who's running.
Exactly. I mean, people are not automatons. They can do whatever they want with their vote if they're really the people who are voting and it's not
Yeah, yeah,
fraudulent.
yeah. So, well, I really appreciate the work you all are doing. I mean, obviously that's great work and everything. Where can people go to look up more information about this, or the work you all are doing and everything?
Well, you can go to the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association website, which is HJTA, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, hjta.org. And you can join right online and be a member. It's a member-supported organization. It runs on small donations. People think the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is so ingrained in California, it's like the water infrastructure, but we're member-supported, a nonprofit, and we have an association, and then we have a parallel foundation. If people want to do tax-deductible giving, they can donate to the foundation and support the work of our legal team and our educational efforts. And it's a really great organization representing taxpayers in the courts, in the legislature, on the ballot, out in the media. We advocate for taxpayers and for responsible spending of your tax dollars because taxation is theft. And if they're
Ah,
gonna if they're gonna take it, they better use it for something that isn't objectionable.
yes, music to my ears there. So that's great. Well, can you think of anything that you'd like to say to people before we get off here?
We will have election information on the website. We do right now. So if you're looking to see what your representative in California, what the voting record is, we have their legislative report cards. We have endorsements from our political action committee. I'm recused from the endorsements, but they're up there on the website. And when we get to the state ballot measures in November, and you're looking for a place to find out what these things really are, because everything is written so confusingly
Mhm.
and so deceptively sometimes, you can go to the Howard Jarvis website at hjta.org, click election information, and we will try to sort it out for you.
And like I said, I appreciate it because man, we need that. We need more people understanding what they're doing and stop buying the propaganda.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would, maybe as it gets a little closer to the election, maybe you come back on and tells people what, hopefully everything's on the ballot and we can talk about it and get more detail about it.
Sure, love to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shawn. A pleasure to be with you.
Yep. And thanks to everybody for listening to Libertarian Los Angeles. Again, please check out the podcast, follow it, leave a comment, all that good stuff. You can follow me on X at Mad Shawn Osborne. The YouTube channel is just Shawn Osborne. You can get my music and the podcast there. On Facebook, it's at Liberty Blues Network. My music page is This Might Make You Mad, and something else. Oh yeah, and check out the Indie-tarian playlist on Spotify. It's a lot of libertarian musicians, and check out some of their music. Help us out with the algorithms. Give us a play or two, and pick out a couple you like, and add them to your regular rotation, and help out some libertarian musicians. And we'll see you on the next episode.